We're going to get right to this with Education Minister Stephen Lecce to hear his side of things. Minister, thank you so much for joining us today. And nice to see you. As you're well aware, we just had CUPE's Laura Walton on, who spoke, well, as part of a news conference with reporters. What she said is, when the question was asked as to if there was any progress in the last few days, that question is not verbatim, but that was more or less the question, her answer was no. Is that your assessment of the last 3 days?
Look, I think it is true, Christina, that CUPE has not brought forth any changes to their demands for roughly nearly 50% increase in compensation, which will cost the taxpayer of this province nearly $19 billion. They didn't come with any changes. But we came with the same message we've been delivering since we've been negotiating in the summer. We're going to stand up to keep kids in school. We believe there's nothing more important. We've just seen 2 months of kids finally returning to the class with extracurriculars, with sports, with the support of their teachers and being with their friends. That normal routine should not be disrupted because we have a disagreement. Stay at the table, work with the government. Let's get a deal we could all live with that keeps kids in class. That is the message I am so committed to delivering, because families are tired of the potential risk of strikes every few years in this province.
I have 2 follow-ups there. You said CUPE hasn't brought forward any changes. Have you brought forward any changes in the last 3 days to see some progress as it comes to these negotiations? What has changed?
Well, first off, we brought forth originally what we thought was a reasonable proposal, right? 8.24% over the course of our mandate, plus maintaining 131 days, sick days. 100% of those are paid for 11, and the next 121 days in Ontario are 90% paid, in addition to maintaining the best pension and the best benefit program in the nation by far. We thought that was reasonable in this economy with the potential of a recession, with the cost of living rising. We thought that was fair. What I was hoping for, what I think everyone was hoping for, is that when you come into a negotiation, Christina, demanding nearly 50% in compensation, the normal ask would be that would come down, get back to reality. Let's get to some reasonable position, because there's no one in this province that is going to be receiving a benefit or a compensation increase of nearly 50 points over the next few years.
Minister, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just told my time with you is limited. So I'm just wondering, in the last 3 days, what changes have you brought to the table, if any? Because you're saying CUPE hasn't brought any to the table.
Yes, what I'm indicating is that what CUPE brought forth originally has seen no change at all. We brought forth something that was reasonable, 8%, which was consistent with what other CUPE unions have signed on across this province.
But in the last 3 days, that was the change you brought forward to see some progress?
In the last few days, we've maintained a position that kids should be in school, and only CUPE has discussed the path to a strike because they're not getting a massive increase in compensation that no one in this economy is receiving. Now, when it comes to the going forward, we've been clear. We'll continue to negotiate, continue to work with this union. We've got a few more days of bargaining scheduled, but we will also stand up for children who want to continue in their routine, because we know learning loss is real. We know math, reading, and writing have taken, that we've seen regression based on data globally and here at home. We have an obligation to these kids to keep them in school. And so we'll continue to make the case for a reasonable, fair, affordable plan for the workers, but we will also stand strong for these parents who are tired, who are concerned for their kids, who want them simply to be in school, to learn, and to refocus on what school is all about, which is getting back to the basics, reading, writing.
Minister, I appreciate that. Due to the time we have here, I want to be clear, this is a very direct question. You have said the government will act to keep kids in school. This is a very specific question. Will the Ford government introduce legislation to prevent job action? What action are you referring to when you say here the government will act to keep kids in school? What is that action?
The hope, Christina, is that we'll sign a voluntary deal with this union and that cooler heads will prevail, that they'll focus on our kids, not on strikes. But I've been clear, and the Premier has been clear, we will do whatever it takes to ensure children continue to learn. They have that we believe there's a moral obligation to them after the last 2 difficult years. And someone's got to speak for these kids in this debate. Someone's got to stand up for parents who are tired of this, who have to go to work, and for the kids to learn. And this government was elected on a mandate to speak for families. And we will stand up for them and ensure their kids remain in school. And frankly, parents demand it, and we're going to deliver it.
So what does that mean? I mean, what will that action be? Because you're saying there'll be action, but you're, to be frank, none of us are clear on what that action is. What are you prepared to do?
We are prepared to meet with this union. We've got 3 more dates scheduled in November to land a voluntary deal. In the absence of the union bringing forth reasonable requests, not nearly 50% increase in compensation demands, but reasonable requests, the government stands ready to ensure that kids remain in school. That's what parents want. They've been very clear. Kids want it, and I'm just making clear our commitment, which is to provide stability for these kids after 2 extraordinary years.
So will the Ford government introduce legislation to prevent job action and to keep CUPE education workers in class? Will you introduce legislation is the question.
We will act, Christina, to keep kids in school. In the meantime, before a potential strike is confirmed, we will hope to get a deal that is reasonable and affordable and keeps kids in class. That's the hope over the coming days of negotiations scheduled in November. But if it doesn't happen, we believe kids should be in school, and the government will do whatever is required to ensure children remain in a safe, stable, positive environment, learning, reading, writing, and math, and really helping to improve after the last 2 difficult years. We think that is important, and we're going to stand up to ensure that families have that commitment, that they can carry on their day with a firm commitment from this government that kids will be in school. And I think that's really important that they hear that.
Okay, we were hoping for some more clarity, Minister, but I'm told that's all the time we have. We do appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Education Minister Stephen Lecce. Thank you for chatting with us.